Welcome back to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. For friendly expert tax advice whenever you need it, come to Donahue Accounting Services, a leading accounting firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Our top-notch accountants strive to help you resolve all your financial and tax issues. Call Donahue Accounting Services today for a free consultation at 513-528-3982 or visit online at donahueaccountingservice.com. I'm your host, Alex Meacham, former Bearcat basketball player from 1997 to 1999 under the Hall of Fame coach, Bob Huggins.
And I'm Neil Meyer with the Front Office News.
I'm JT Smith, editor-in-chief for the Front Office News.
Fellas, we are back for another episode. Let's jump right into it. The Bearcats are currently 10-2 after losing to Kansas State, 67-70. JT, thoughts on the Bearcats' performance?
Man, disappointed more so than anything, just because the Big 12, that's no slight to Kansas State at all. It's just one of those things where Bearcats come in top 20 team, going against a team that's kind of reeling, and Kansas State, saw blood in the water, man, and they didn't let them off the hook. And that's one of the things that hurts. I think the Bearcats kind of, I don't know if they, you read the clippings a little bit where everybody's giving you all this praise, and Kansas State wasn't going. And you lose a tough game where they just couldn't get their full traction. I didn't like the turnovers a lot, and then there was a few, shot selections that kind of burnt them as well. I think that was the key. Maybe a few things defensively, which we haven't seen in a while, but it was a different animal with Kansas State. And maybe, I don't know, we really haven't had to double anybody this year. And I think maybe that might be something they might have to add in there. Occasionally, at least show it a little bit. They take so much pride, but we might have to do it occasionally, depending on what the lineup looks like. But shots and turnovers, you kind of said the keys of the game was dominate the glass. Bearcats won that by 6, but they, had 15 turnovers, and, we kind of had the sweet spot of 12 at the highest on the road. You can't turn the ball over. It burns you. So, you get a team that, kind of underachieved in a non-conference, and you got a team that you can get respect by getting the win, and that's what the Bearcats right now, they're the hunted, and, it's the roles are reversing, where last year they were just trying to compete in the Big 12 and they were the hunters. And now when you're top 25, people are like, hey, this is a team that gives us a good victory and we got to bring it. And, they just didn't bring enough on Monday.
Now, JT, you're on a roll right now with calling the player of the game, and you said Dan Skillings, he had 18 points. Thoughts on how he performed?
No, he played good, man. He didn't get as many rebounds as I thought he was going to get personally, but at the same time, he played very well. It's just something that you could see on the rise, essentially, because, he played well against Dayton. Didn't shoot it particularly well from 3, but it was just one of those things, like everything was a little short, and that's just – he had a knee injury, getting his legs back, right? Everything was online. I don't think he shot anything that just looked crazy. So I was like, man, you see his shot getting closer. So I just kind of felt like this would be a game where he's just one of those guys that he matches up well against pretty much any team. And I thought that's why he would be kind of the guy that would figure it out.
And, you mentioned rebounding. I think Mitchell led the team with rebounds 11. Is that right, Neil?
Yep,
okay.
11.
Mitchell had 11 rebounds. And anytime you have 15 turnovers on the road, we had some really bad turnovers. You're going to have to make up for that in other areas, JT, right? So, if you have 15 turnovers, I think that's 5 too many or 6 too many. You're going to have to make up for that, whether it's you've got a lot more steals or we won the rebounding edge, but we needed to win that by a larger margin to make up for the turnovers. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. And you only win by 6, only 10 offensive rebounds off of how many misses total? You got 32 misses, only 10 offensive rebounds, and you got 15 turnovers. So you won the rebounding, battle, but you didn't dominate like how Neil talked about in the previous game, like how they lost and they got blown out is when they got dominated on the glass, and the Bearcats didn't dominate them on the glass. And then they had the turnovers, so that didn't help as well. So, you get that. Seamont's not having he's been kind of a little cold lately. And that's kind of, him having 4 points on the road isn't something that you sign up for. and that ends up biting them. You lose by 3. So that's one of the things you look at. Then just they shot decent from the 3, but as a whole, only get 7 free throws as well. They get 20. That's you get those free throws. That's a big differential, and it came back to burn them, man. You lose only win the rebound battle by 6. You have 15 turnovers, and you allow them to shoot. You can't defend the line, but they shot 13 more free throws, so that's a huge differential.
Neil, your thoughts on the performance? By the way, for those that can't see this, Neil has on one of the most cozy hoodies of all time, and he woke up a little late for the podcast. No, you were on time.
But I was on time, just a little late.
Like I said before, I would fall asleep too wearing that cozy. What is that? Is that?
Hey, courtesy. This is going to sound bad. Courtesy of the TikTok shop, baby. $8. Okay. $8 for those out there. I'll hit you with the link. $8.
What is that material?
I don't know, but it's fluffy. It's great company.
I don't know.
Great company.
Thoughts on the Bearcats' performance, Neil?
Yeah, so overall, there's quite a few things to take away in this one. I mean, we talked about it heading into this matchup. If Cincinnati wanted to win this game, you had to find ways to keep the turnover battle. You had to keep the turnovers under 15, right? And then you look at I said under 12, but they had 15. So you look at the stats and everything, 15 turnovers, but Kansas State only turned those turnovers into 15 points. So they averaged 1 point per turnover. In a game you lose by 3, if you cut that turnover rate down to that 12 or 11 or 12 number, could be a slightly different game, but turnovers was the big difference in this one. Obviously, you wish that number would have been lower, but we all talked about the turnover is going to be a key importance of this one, along with rebounding. You win the rebounding margin by 6 as well, but overall, Cincinnati was not able to come away with the victory. But in a game where you have 15 turnovers and you lose by 3, a lot of things could sway that could change that game if you wish you had 1 or 2 of those turnovers back that resulted in a bucket or whatnot. But turnovers, unfortunately, were the big one on Monday night in Manhattan. And then on top of it, JT mentioned it, Simas Lukosius has really struggled over the last few games. And I think teams are starting to find ways to really defend how they defend the screener on that aspect as well. So Simas Lukosius was having a hard time getting open, it looked like, on Monday night. Maybe that was just screens not being set properly or not hard enough, but he was trying to fight through the screens and he just couldn't get his shot off. Only 1 shot in the second half, and for your leading scorer, he's got to have 1 more shot attempt than what he did in the second half.
Neil, you brought something up that I want to touch on here. So you talked about the screens, and I watched the game or listened to the call of the game with my father. And we listened to Dan and Terry Nelson on the radio was talking about this Bearcat team needs to improve on setting screens. They're not going shoulder to shoulder. And actually, I called Terry earlier today to talk to him a little bit about that. He was on his way to practice and talked about setting better screens. And that's one problem that, CMOS might be having, getting open, the Bearcats setting better screens. But with that being said, excuse me. With that being said, we look at CMOS having 14 points. He didn't do anything else, right? It's like sometimes a player might only have 4 points. Let's say a Dylan Mitchell has, 4 points. He might give you 11 or 12 rebounds, and you could go, okay, he struggled on offense, but he gave us this. CMOS didn't give us anything else, which is concerning. So CMOS needs to get back on track and find a way to do other things because, 4 points, if he scores 10, we might win that basketball game. But Neil, he's got to get back on track and do more than just score.
Yeah, no, most certainly. And another good point too, Alex, that JT mentioned earlier, was it kind of feels like this team was hunting teams in the Big 12 last year, obviously being the first year within the conference. This year now, like JT mentioned, being a top 25 team, they're actually kind of being hunted. And we asked Wes Miller about that today, and the full quote says, "I challenge my team to never, ever think they have it figured out. It's human nature to have success and say, oh, we are good, we got it. To me, that's the death of success." So for Wes, he's obviously telling his team to never sit and be complacent to having it figured out, because everybody knows what the Big 12 is. And especially with all the potential, the rankings, the expectations that were put on Cincinnati this year, there's going to be a lot of teams coming and trying to knock off Cincinnati. And it's kind of a different scenario from what they were in year one to year two. And that's a huge testament to what Wes Miller is building. But on top of it, the Kansas State, everyone, you look at that game, everyone is going to point to the circle of Cincinnati's struggles on offense. But we talked about it here. Coleman Hawkins, there's a reason why he got paid the NIL money he did. And he showed every bit of why he was worth that 1.3, 1.5 million, whatever he got in NIL on Monday night. 20 points, 10 rebounds. Cincinnati just had no answer for him. I mean, he has not had that offensive night this season. And then he finally put it together with extra rest since they had that 10-day layoff heading into this one. Got him time to rest, got the team focused. They started Doug McDaniel, who never started this year. Instead of bringing him off the bench, they made the last-minute decision to start him, and he had their best performance of his season. So on top of it, when you get 40 points from two guys and then you get 60 from three, it's going to be hard to stop that on any given night.
And listen, I think we all can agree that was a disappointing loss. But the beauty of the Big 12, you turn around, you got another big game. Right. So this Saturday at 2:30 p.m., the Bearcats take on Arizona at the beautiful Fifth Third Arena. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. And by the way, before we jump into the Big O segment, I want to give a shout out to my guy, Dwayne Donahue, who helped sponsor this. Great dude. See him at Bearcat games, different events. We really appreciate you, man. Great dude. Now let's jump into the Big O segment sponsored by Smart Dog Solutions. In this segment, we cover players to watch in key matchups. JT, you've been on a roll. Let's keep it going. Who are you expecting a big game from?
All right, I'm rolling with this one. It's kind of easy for me. Jizzle James, man. He had 4 assists, 3 turnovers. Probably the most turnovers he's had all year, I believe. So I think, he's going against a big-time player in Caleb Love. I want to see him double digits, which he did against K-State, but I want to see him between 10 and 15. If he's hot, go for more. But 5 to 8 assists, but less than 2 turnovers, 5 to 8 assists. And then just play solid defense, make it tough for a very talented player in Caleb Love. So I think he's the key because, the Bearcats had too many turnovers. It starts with the point guard. I want to see him do what he's been doing all year and just affect the game, man. Even if he doesn't score a lot, I want to see him having a lot of assists and getting the Bearcats getting them easy shots, whether it's him or others.
Now, JT, a good friend of mine, Chris Francis, I was talking to him up in Anderson Township, and he's a big Bearcat fan, and we were talking about this game, and he said to me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, from his standpoint as a Bearcat fan, he said, I want to see Jizzle James step up more. I want him to be more of that impact guy in a game. Your thoughts on that?
He can do it. The thing is, the gift and the curse. The gift, he's such an unselfish player that he's not like forcing it. He's really trying to be that true consummate point guard. But he's the guy that I tell everybody, he's the guy that can do everything on the floor that you need to do. Like he's the guy that can give you 30. Like I can see him being able to score 25 to 30 points. And he's getting everybody involved with you want your point guard to do. But it's certain time, I think now it's going to be time for him to kind of transform into Jizzle of last year a little bit, where he's just like, I'm going to put the stamp on the game. And he did it last year. I think he could do it this year. I think he's really trying to get everybody involved. And you could tell, like, if he misses a couple of shots, now he's getting to the paint to try to get for others. But I think he has to be a little selfish, not where he's just shooting bad shots, but when he getting his one-on-one chances, he has to exploit the people. And he can do it, man. I mean, he showed everybody that. I mean, he has that talent, but I just think really he's just really like rounding his game off, and I think that's what's making what people are like wanting more. And I think that's and that's at the beginning of the season I understand, but he's the guy that I can see taking a big step where he starts. I think he's averaging like 12 points now. I think he can finish the season averaging 16 to 18 points. It just depending on how he kind of just takes the bull by the horns. You know what I mean? Because he might have to be a little selfish some at times. You know what I mean? But I think he's the guy that can do it. And even if he's missing, I think he can get to the spots where he wants to get on the court easily. What you think about that, Meach?
I agree with you. I certainly listen. Everybody knows he has the ability, right? He puts in the time. Yeah. He has the ability, right? And I think you made a point earlier. He's very unselfish, and I see that. And I see at times where he's like, "I got Dan, I got Dylan Mitchell, I got Seamas. I don't need to go."
Yep.
And they've got to find that balance. And I think Jizzle's such a unique piece to this basketball team. And I think if he can play at a little bit of a higher level, which means he's going to have to press a little bit more and attack, I think it's just going to open it up for everybody. I mean, so imagine you've got Jizzle attacking and cooking, and then Dan's going to be Dan. If Seamas starts knocking down shots, and then you got Dylan, you can't guard all that.
Yeah.
It becomes so tough. But I think it comes back to what you were saying and what my friend Chris Francis was saying, which I agree with, and that is Jizzle's going to have the ball in his hand, right?
Yeah.
He's gotta become selfish, and I don't mean selfish in a bad way, but in a good way for a positive impact for this team. I think he's got to be selfish at times and go. And we could have used that versus Kansas State.
Yeah. Not for sure, because he did it at times last year, like where he was like, "Okay, I'm about to make this run, get on my back, and you know what I mean, let's all ride the positive energy to this dub, or let's get back in this game." It was multiple times I've seen it on the road, even the Xavier game. Like that's
the one.
Yeah, like he was like, "Hey," so like that's the thing. Like he has to. It's a hell of a balance. It's different teammates. You got people that can make plays, but he's the guy that, and I tell people probably think I'm crazy when I keep saying that, like he's the guy that stirs the drink per se. So I think he has to understand. I know he understands, like, I got to get other people involved, but he has to understand, like, hey, me going on like a 6-0 run can change the game, or me scoring, 10 of the 15 points we score or whatnot. You know what I mean? Like he can do that. He's that good. So, and I know it's a hell of a thing to balance because you're the point guard, so you don't want to be too unselfish. But he's one of those guys. He's so good. He kind of has to be a little bit more selfish right now, I think, personally.
Yep, I totally agree. If you go back in time and you think about a Nick Van Exel, when he was the point guard for the Bearcats, he did a good job being a point guard, but there were times where Nick was like, "I got to go."
Yeah.
Because he had Herb Jones, he had Anthony Buford. I mean, he had so many weapons on that team.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Nick had to go. So I totally agree. And you said he's the straw that stirs the drink. Speaking of drink, what drink do we have tonight, JT?
All right. So we got water.
Yep. Staying healthy.
Yep, staying healthy. And then we got a little Crown and Coke.
I love it.
We're staying a little healthy, and then boom, Crown and Coke.
Hey, we need to have a drink watch every podcast, okay?
Bet.
Now, Neil, let's get to you. I know you want to talk about maybe your Bearcat player to watch, and then who do we look out for from Arizona?
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys for the Cincinnati player to watch. I'm pretty excited to see the Jizzle James versus Caleb Love or Jaden Bradley matchup. I think those are the two guys who kind of steer the ship for Arizona. And I mean, Caleb Love, everybody knows, is one of the best players in all of college basketball. For those who have followed extensively like us, I mean, last year he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. He ended up going on to be a first-team All-American this year, preseason All-American. I mean, he's coming off a 33-point performance versus TCU. He does everything so well. And I actually asked Wes Miller about what Caleb Love does so well that makes him one of the best point guards in all of college basketball. And he kind of stated that he does everything so well. He was the Pac-12 Player of the Year last year. That says enough, right? He was one of the most elite players in all of college basketball. He has now developed into a terrific player. He is going to cause a lot of problems for any team that Arizona plays within the Big 12. So that kind of says alone about the kind of player that he is. But the backcourt for Arizona, between guys like Caleb Love and Jaden Bradley, I mean, Caleb Love's averaging 17 points a game. Jaden Bradley's averaging 14, and Bradley's shooting 47% from the field. And he's a guy that leads the team in assists. He's got close to 50 assists, so close to averaging 5 assists per game roughly. He is a guy that can facilitate for Arizona, and I think that's going to be their two guys who really kind of stand out, because for people who follow Arizona, they're going to be without big man. I got to get the name right here, so can't butcher this. I know we'll talk about it in the name game, but Matijus Krivas is going to be he will be out for Arizona this weekend. He suffered a season-ending injury. The 7'3" center, done for the season, has not played since early December. So on top of it, they're looking for somebody to rebuild there. But anytime you go down one of your big guys in the front court, especially in the Big 12, you're looking at who's going to come in and step in. But for Arizona's sake, on the other hand, they got another 7-footer who's played terrific since Krivas has gone down. So on top of that, they're tested early on the interior for Arizona, and they also lost their star player outside of Omar Ballo last season, who transferred to Indiana. So the front court for Arizona really took a hit. They went overseas and played the transfer portal, or overseas and got some guys in, not transfer portal, but the international ranks. So it's going to be interesting, but Caleb Love, Jaden Bradley, I think those are your two guys you got to keep an eye on, because Caleb Love is so dangerous, and everybody kind of knows that from his time at UNC versus time at Arizona. It's going to be a tough matchup for Jizzle James or Day Thomas, whoever it might be. It's going to be interesting. It really will, because anytime you look down, you see Arizona just got a big win over TCU on the road, and Caleb Love puts up 33 on 11 to 16 shooting. If he has one of those kind of performances here in Fifth Third, it might get out of control, because Fifth Third's not an easy place to put up 30. I think the last guy who did it was Damian Dunn a few years ago versus Cincinnati, but Caleb Love is probably going to be an NBA draft pick this season, to say the least. I think he could have been one the last few seasons, but there's a reason why he came back to return to Arizona, but he's a fantastic player. So those two guys, Arizona's backcourt is phenomenal. They kind of play a similar style to what they saw 2 years ago out in Maui, but it doesn't have the star power as what that team did 2 years ago. But the backcourt for Arizona is elite. And Wes Miller even called it. They're an elite team for a reason. They do a lot of things well, but the point guards lead everything, and they kind of do everything in every little facet so well. That's what makes Arizona a top 25 team start the season. They've fallen off and a little bit, but they're climbing right back. So this will be a team that we'll see in March make the NCAA tournament, and probably a top 15 team come the end of the year.
And one of the things that I love about the Big 12, and it just top-notch conferences, not only do you play good teams, but the Bearcat fan base gets to see elite level players, right? So a Caleb Love who's coming in, a potential NBA guy, it always seems like there'll be high level players that, you go back to the days when, I was at UC, and you look at like the Marquette teams that used to come in, and Dwayne Wade was like, we watched, one of the top, I don't know where he ranks, but one of the top 50 NBA players of all time, played at Fifth Third Arena, and you would get that. And even in the Big East, you'd see the Kemba Walkers, and that's what the fans want to see. They want to see us do well, win, but then to see those teams come in with those high-level players is it's a lot of fun for the fan base. But you know what time it is? One of our favorite segments with Neil Meyer. Give us the dance, Neil. Gotta give us the dance. Hey. Now, I don't know if that hoodie you got on gave you a little extra
swag, baby.
Do you know how to do the bankhead bounce?
No.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Good Lord. JT,
I'll look it up there later tonight.
Yeah, we got
to look that up, man.
Yeah, you got to work on that. So next podcast, bankhead bounce, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
I got you.
All right, let's jump into the name game. We're talking about the Arizona Wildcats. Let's start with number 13.
Number 13, Henry Visar from Real Madrid.
And the thing about that is, the name's not even tough to say, but even the spelling of the name. You see that?
Yeah.
HenriVeeSaar. So double A's.
Man. Number
Arn
4.
Anderson.
Huh?
Double A Arn Anderson. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, yes sir. Arn Anderson. Number 14.
Number 14, a guy I mentioned earlier, Matijus Krivas from Siulia, Lithuania.
Monty Juice. You sure that's how you say it? Is it Monty Juice?
There's a pronunciation. You want me to hit it?
No, we're gonna go with Monty Juice. All
Yeah,
right,
roll with it.
Juice.
we'll roll with the juice. We'll call him the juice.
Juice
Number 30.
Number 30 for Arizona is Toby Awaka.
Oh, that's too easy.
Yeah.
I got. Huh?
It was spelled like it was gonna be Wilder, but when you say it, it ain't bad.
Yeah, I gotta do better. All right, number 42.
Number 42 is Steven DiGiacomo. DiGiacomo.
Say the last name again.
Steven DiGiacomo. It's probably Giacomo and the D is silent. Pause.
Man, thank you, Neil. Neil, that's the first time that you follow with a pause that quickly. It's usually JT or I reminding you.
Yeah, did good at that time.
I'm proud of you, okay? Let's jump into I'm actually looking at one of the grad assistants.
All right, let's go back.
Scroll down to the grad assistant underneath Evan Manning.
Przemek Karnowski.
Say their first name again?
Przemek Karnowski.
That's a tough one there.
That first name is off the chain. Let's see.
Przemek. Yeah, that's tough.
It's pronounced Shemek is what their pronunciation guide has it.
What
so
about
the pronunciation guide says Shemick.
Okay. What about the assistant coach underneath TJ Benson? Last name.
Nagakawa.
I like that one. What about the athletic trainer?
The athletic trainer, Justin Kokotsky.
Ooh, we got to pause that too.
Yeah.
You got to pause that one, Neil. Go ahead. Say it.
Justin Kokotsky.
There you go. A little better. That a little better.
That was better. The big old segment.
Crazy. They got. I didn't know Jason Gardner was a part of they staff. That's crazy. You remember him, Meach?
Jason Gardner?
Yeah. Point guard, Lafty.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at him now.
Yeah.
I forgot about him.
But he looked like he gained a little weight.
Yeah, he's definitely bigger than. Yeah. I remember him now. At first, I didn't remember who you were talking about.
Yeah, I think he got a son that's pretty decent too, like a junior. Like
maybe that's why he's on staff.
Might be.
That's why. And
he was fire back in the day, though. He was cold. I feel like he was a top dude.
And you know what? Their assistant coach also, Steve Robinson. I guess he would be the associate head coach. He's right under Coach Lloyd. He was at North Carolina for years.
He do look familiar.
He was there forever. Every time I watch North Carolina play, you would see him on the bench. I guarantee you Wes and him have a good relationship. And I wonder, was he there prior to club trap? Well, he had to be there when Wes was there, because I'm swear this dude has been there was at North Carolina forever. But I'm wondering if he was at Arizona and helped get Caleb Love over.
Maybe.
Could have played that huge role.
Could have.
I think he came to Arizona, and it looks like 2000, named assistant coach September 2nd, 2021.
So, yeah, he would, right?
Yeah, because Caleb Love freshman year would have been 2021 to 2022, right?
So he probably helped recruit him to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Over there. The assistant coach underneath him, Rem Bakamus, actually know him.
Oh, word.
Yeah, weird story. So we know each other because I got tagged on this there was a walk-on text chain back in the day, and he was a walk-on at Gonzaga, and he was on it, and we got to know each other. So I actually know him. He was a walk-on. Yeah, I know. There was one point where every walk-on in America was in this text chain. Man, the stories on that, that's a whole no, that's a podcast in itself.
That's
I'm not
wild.
even. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So he and I actually know each other from this text chain. I need to give him a shout. The Big O segment is sponsored by Smart Dog Solutions. Hey, the only other thing I just want to add is, before we jump into our next segment is, I look at what you say with Jizzle, and I was thinking about this while you guys were talking a little bit about CMOS and Jizzle. It's like if Jizzle can go more, right, and be more aggressive, that just opens it up for CMOS even more because, like we talked about, defenses are starting to throw some different things at CMOS.
Yeah.
Right? And if other people are starting to cook, they just become impossible. I know I said this before, but they just become impossible to guard, JT.
Yeah. No, for sure. You ain't lying about that. I think he has to be a little bit more aggressive, hunt his shot, and still make the right play. But I think he's good enough, man, where he can do that. He can hunt his own shot. We know that.
Yeah, no question. The Big O segment is sponsored by Smart Dog Solutions. Do you have a business that needs better inventory control, production management, or improved accounting control? Outgrown QuickBooks or can't afford NetSuite? Give loyal Bearcat grads Doug and Kathy Jacobs at Smart Dog Solutions a call. They've been in your position and will love to help you solve your problems. They can be contacted at 513-739-9473 or online at smartdog-solutions.com. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Now, the Kenyon segment is sponsored by Greg Hooden, my guy at Beachmont Toyota. This is where we cover keys to the game. JT, what do the Bearcat needs to do to win?
All right. Sound like a broken record, man. Protect the ball. Can't have 15 turnovers. Not at home. Not against a team talented as Arizona. Got to keep, I'm going to steal Neil's number, 12 or under. So,
okay.
That's key. I'll say the three-point shot will be key too as well, but I want them to be aggressive. I don't want them just firing threes. So I don't really have a number, but I don't want them just coming down, shooting threes without trying to attack first. That's my biggest thing is get to the paint or try to make the defense move, then get the three. Don't just come down firing just, all right, early shot clock threes. Let's try to get to the hole, get to the paint, get to dunk, or even if it's the mid-range, shoot that. So those are my two things. And then Arizona is a very good rebounding team. So I just want them to be within 3 rebounds, either win the rebound battle, but if they lose, I don't want them to be less than 3 rebounds away from Arizona.
Who do you want to see, JT, from the Bearcats to rebound better?
I want to see Aziz rebound better as a whole. I feel like Dylan rebounds very well. He's very consistent. Aziz affects a lot of shots, and that could take him out of rebounding position sometimes. But I want to see him complete some of the rebounds. I might be being selfish on that. But I think he's in the low 5s. I want to see him start being automatic 7 or higher when he's on the court.
Love it. Yep. Neil, what did the Bearcats need to do to win big?
Yeah, I think JT hits it right there, nail on the head. You got to win the rebounding margin or at least be close. Arizona's a physical team. They can really rebound the basketball. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country. But in order for Cincinnati to be successful in that margin, you would like to see that number jump for a guy like Dan Skillings. Now, we talked about him still getting fully back healthy after the knee injury, still finding his groove. But just over the last 4 games since returning, he's only been averaging 4 rebounds a game. And everybody who's followed Dan Skillings throughout his career knows he's used to grabbing 6, 7, 8 boards a night. So this is a game where I think Dan Skillings could have a big impact there on the boards. And if he is able to do so, that will be tremendous boost for Cincinnati. So if you win the rebounding margin, and I'm going to start with Dan Skillings on that kind of aspect, to pair alongside Dylan Mitchell and Aziz Bandego, then you got to limit the turnovers. You really do. You keep the turnovers under 12, like you mentioned, JT, that will be playing significantly into Cincinnati's favor because we talked about it. This is a very physical and elite Arizona team with all the potential to make a deep NCAA tournament run. So you got to limit the turnovers, and you got to create turnovers and score on the turnovers you create on the defensive end. If you're able to do that and win the rebounding margin, you should be able to hopefully win this game on Saturday. But on top of it, for Cincinnati too, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of environment we get at Fifth Third Arena, because for everybody who knows, students are still away from campus due to holiday break. So it's going to be interesting because they're going to need Fifth Third rocking for this one. We saw the kind of matchup the fans were able to play last year in this Big 12 opener. Dylan Mitchell has came out and even said it multiple times, like that crowd terrified that Texas team. They said was like, we weren't expecting this. I would expect the same thing to happen on Saturday. Pending the weather situation, I would expect a big crowd at Fifth Third Arena. For those who are going to the game, it is a stripe out. So look at your sections accordingly, but I expect the crowd to play a huge favor in this one. And Wes Miller and players have even said it, like, this crowd will win you games. So overall, for them to win big, they're going to need the crowd support, take care of the ball, and win the battle of the glass. If they can have all those, I think this is a game where Cincinnati could get a Big 12 victory at home versus a top 25 team in Arizona.
The Kenyon segment is sponsored by Greg Hooden at Beachmont Toyota. You know, I do want to touch on that, Neil. You talked about the crowd. So a couple things. One, going into this game, I'm looking at it from a standpoint, we have to guard. We have to sit down and play that defense like we did versus Dayton in the first half. Correct. And I think we need to send a message, right? Because listen, I know the students are gone. But when do the students start back? Monday?
Monday, yep.
Monday. So, hey, listen, some of them might come back on Saturday. You know, they might come back for the weekend to get ready for class on Monday. Who knows? They know this is a big game. I personally think this is going to be a big crowd. Get there early. I think it's going to be a loud crowd because Bearcat fans know how bad we need this win. You know, coming off the Kansas State game, we've got to turn around and win this basketball game. I think we've got to win by a good margin just to kind of make up for that Kansas State loss. So I fully expect Bearcat fans are going to be, you know, really loud. But I want to see that defensive intensity right from the start. And I think if we do that and we're causing turnovers for Arizona, we're getting some easy buckets, you get the crowd into it, I think we win this basketball game. But if we don't come out with that defensive intensity, I'd be surprised if we didn't, but if we don't come out with that defensive intensity, I think it's going to be one of those long games that could come down to the wire. And I don't like those games down to the wire, man. I just do not like that. Now, the way I look at it is Bearcat fans are going to be intense because Bearcats come away with a win versus Arizona. A lot of them are going to turn around and turn on the Bengals game later. I think 8 p.m. they play the Steelers, right? So they're going to look forward to watching the Bengals beat the Steelers. So I think people are going to be pumped up this Saturday. And hopefully the weather's not bad. Now, Nia, I know you're on like 100 podcasts. I think you're on a weather podcast too, aren't you? Right?
Hey, only on days that end in Y. Just kidding. Don't blame me, folks, if the weather is wrong.
I hope it's not, you know, I don't like cold weather. I don't like snow. So hopefully the weather's not bad to impact this game. The Kenyon segment Keys to the Game was sponsored by Greg Hooden at Beachmont Toyota. Come see fellow Bearcat Greg Hooden at Beachmont Toyota for all your new and pre-owned Toyota needs. Look for Greg Hooden on Instagram and Twitter at Cincy Greg Hooden. Hooden is spelled Hoodin. Or come see Greg at Beachmont Toyota. Always ready to help our Bearcat family get into a new Toyota. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Now, the Twyman segment is sponsored by Visionary Cleaners. This is where we cover hot topics. So a hot topic for today in this podcast is, I know after the Kansas State game, I saw a lot of things floating around on social media about Wes Miller and his coaching job, that game in particular. So I was thinking, what a great opportunity right now to grade Wes Miller at this point, right? So we've had the non-conference games. We've had one conference game. Let's judge him. Let's grade him at this point. JT, I want to start with you.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna go B plus, and the reason why it's in the B area is because I felt like Villanova game. It's like, man, on the road, had a chance to win. Just didn't get the job done. Didn't shoot very well at all. And then Kansas State was just one of those games where it's like, hey, we're the favorite on the road and you lose. It's like, dang. But the reason why I have the grade as high as it is they only lost one game in non-conference. That was Villanova, but they beat two teams that beat them last year, in Xavier and UD. UD is a top 25 team. I don't know if they still are in the top 25, but that's a team that's going to be in March Madness. Xavier's been hit with injuries, but they were full. They were healthy when that game was going on. So I'm going to give a props for that. He has the first person to beat, first person in three coaches or two coaches to beat, Xavier. So I'm rolling with that. You're going in the right direction. It's just that I understand why people were mad about the Kansas State game, just because UC was the better team. It's just that they didn't play as good as I thought they could have. But the Big 12 is one of those things. It's one of those conferences where when you do lose, you're like, damn, you know what I mean? Because that's one of the teams I kind of penciled as a win, but you can't do that. And in the Big 12, it's a grind every time. But it's one of those things you get over it. After, just think about it, decompress, think about it. 24 hours, you're good. I mean, you saw Kansas lost in Texas Tech same night or day after. So it's just the Big 12 is a monster.
Yeah. And JT, I'm going to come back to ask you some questions when it's my turn, because I've got some thoughts on that B plus grade that you gave him. So, but before I do that, Neil, I want to jump to you real quick and get your thoughts on a grade for Wes Miller.
Yeah, I would sit the same grade as JT has. I would sit at a B because everybody obviously looks to the Villanova game or the local games in the past for Wes Miller and say, oh, they're still struggling to find those ways to win some of those games that they should arguably win. But on top of it, an example, Monday night in Manhattan, Kansas State was a hungry team. Cincinnati was a hungry team as well. But obviously, you wish you would have came out on the other side of that game. But on top of it, like JT mentioned, that's the Big 12. Everybody knows what you're going to get, especially the Big 12 opener. And we have seen that already in week one of the Big 12 because, heck, I mean, on Saturday, West Virginia beat Kansas, a West Virginia team who's in the first year of a brand new coach. So on top of it, lived in the transfer portal. Many people expected that West Virginia team to be at the bottom of the Big 12 this year. And then what do? The first game of the season, they go out there and they take down arguably the best team in the Big 12. So on top of it, that's the Big 12. Every night is going to be a battle. Now, you wish you would have been able to get that job done on Monday night, but Wes Miller has done a fantastic job here. Everybody kind of sees that. You see what he's doing in the recruiting trail, how he's selling Cincinnati, what he's building here. He's a player's coach. Everybody knows that. But on top of it, I think things are going to start trending in the upward direction again, despite what happened Monday night in the Little Apple. Things are going to be trending up, especially with the Big 12.
Yeah, so fellas, same. I mean, I got my notes here. I gave I don't know if you can see them, blah blah blah. I gave him a B plus, and I wanted to be an A minus, but the B plus was because, listen, I think the Kansas State and the Villanova losses impact his grade right now, because I think those two were winnable games, like both of you guys talked about. And I think some of that falls on, coaches making adjustments. And I'm not, trying to be overly critical, but those are just, I think, some game situation things. Like, for example, the Kansas State game. When you think about this Bearcat team, you think about depth as one of the many strengths, right? We talk about depth all the time.
Yeah.
How many guys did he play? 7, right? I mean, he pretty much played 7 guys. There's some other guys that played under, 10 minutes or whatever. But I look at it as the majority of the time he played 7 guys. And I is that right? Am I right about that? I
Yeah,
don't have the
pretty much.
stats. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think that's something where more guys could be in the rotation. I think, and maybe those guys aren't ready yet, but it's they've got to be ready, especially in the Big 12 and after however many non-conference games. And I think, listen, Wes has a tough job in that he's got a team where he's got to find a way to blend these guys together offensively and find ways to make sure this offense flows in a certain way. And I don't think it's there yet. I think it will get there, but it's just not there yet, right? I'm pleased with, hey, you beat OSU in a scrimmage, in KU, Xavier, Dayton, and on top of all those games, you turn around and you take care of business versus Grambling, like all the little things. I think that's a work right there. But those two losses to me bring his grade down to a B plus, and I'm sure he's got plenty of opportunities to get that grade up. Just like when we were in school, you get that B or C. I don't know, Neil, you were an A plus student, so you don't have to worry about this. Whereas me and JT will get a C. We gotta start, getting some A's and get those grades up. Were you an A student, Neil?
I was an A and B student.
Okay, JT,
I was like, yeah, A and B.
A and B.
I have C's every once in a while if I was slacking, but I get them up though.
C's get degrees. But you need to get those A's on a couple quizzes, tests, or exams, or papers. And listen, the Big 12 is going to give you plenty of opportunities to rebound from. I think the Villanova and Kansas State. You come out, you beat Arizona, you take care of business versus them. You take care of business versus Kansas. I think I wouldn't say all is forgotten, but hey, we're trending in the right direction. And again, all these games are just kind of learning experiences for, I think, March in that run that I think this Bearcat team could make in the NCAA tournament. Now, you don't want to have too many learning experiences that are losses, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And then it starts to compound, and it's like, there are a lot of questions about this team, but overall, you look at, I think, and I'm going to let you guys talk about this, but if you're looking at the overall picture of what Wes is doing and the staff is doing as a program, I think it's in an A, because you look at the hype behind the program right now, the guys that are coming in soon. I think just the momentum from that. But from this season standpoint right now, I'm with you guys. I'm at a B plus. JT, anything you want to add to that? And Neil as well?
Yeah, for sure. No, they're moving in the right direction. It's just now they just got to hold it down in the Big 12. So the momentum, everything that everybody's seeing on the outside, the recruiting, everybody being more pumped about Bearcat basketball, they got to just keep that going. So you have a good showing in the Big 12 this year. Not as many of those close losses. Just get some close wins or some blowout wins if we can. But it's a hell of a conference, so we're not expecting a consistently have blowouts either way. But against this competition, you have a good showing. Everybody's going to be real happy. They'll forget about this Kansas State game if you can hold it down. And we said last week, I think, what did Neil have, 14-6? I think we went 13-7 in the Big 12. Yep. They already got one loss. So, but at the same time, they got 19 games left. So if they go for those records, which is still possible, everybody will be very, very happy, and they won't nitpick on this game. But if they, struggle and barely get to 500 in the Big 12, then people will be like, hey, you lost a game, the 3-point game to Kansas State against a team that, I think you're definitely better than. That's on site to them, but you allowed them to beat you, let them punch you in the mouth. So, we'll see how it goes. So, hopefully right now, like you said, the B plus. Hopefully by the end of the season, we're at an A plus. It can change. This is a moving grade right now.
Yeah, no, most certainly too. And it's worth noting too, JT, obviously we talk about the Big 12. This grade could change throughout the season. I mean, heck, you never know what Cincinnati could do in Big 12 play because of how crazy this league is, especially in the first year where you have 20 conference games. I mean, realistically, every game is going to be a quote unquote big game for Cincinnati here on out. I think you only have one quad 3 opportunity, and it's Oklahoma State. And you look outside of that, like those are resume defining wins. So, I mean, obviously we talk about the grade right now being a B, but if Cincinnati finds a way to get the job done throughout conference play, they make an NCAA tournament run, obviously the grades are going to change. But it's the Big 12 we're talking about. No challenge is going to be easy, especially when you have to cram 19 games into a span of 11 weeks now on 11 weeks with no bye week. So essentially you're playing 2 games a week. You're going 3 different time zones. It's going to be a gauntlet, but there's definitely room for that grade to go up for sure.
Absolutely. A lot of games to be played. That's the beauty of the Big 12. And, every game is an opportunity to improve your resume for the NCAA tournament. And I think the higher seed that you get, and it's not to say your road is easy in the NCAA tournament, but when you get a higher seed, it gives you a better opportunity to make it further, in the tournament. So plenty of opportunities in the Big 12 to improve the resume. The Twyman segment is sponsored by Visionary Cleaners. Visionary Cleaners is a locally owned company by former Bearcat student athletes. They specialize in high-quality commercial cleaning of businesses, apartments, and pre- and post-construction cleans. They can be reached at 513-388-7816 or contacted online at visionarycleaners.com. Fellas, this concludes another great podcast. Thanks to all of our sponsors, Donahue Accounting Services, Smart Dog Solutions, Greg Hood and Beachmont Toyota, and Visionary Cleaners. You're listening to the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. For friendly expert tax advice, whenever you need it, come to Donahue Accounting Services, a leading accounting firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Our top-notch accountants strive to help you resolve all your financial and tax issues. Call Donahue Accounting Services today for a free consultation at 513-528-3982 or visit online at DonahueAccountingService.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bearcat Tip-Off Talk podcast presented by Donahue Accounting Services. Go Bearcats.